For over 30 years, Ethiopia, Africa's second most populous nation, has grappled with the loss of its Red Sea ports after Eritrea's independence in 1993. The severing of access to Massawa and Assab was a profound economic and psychological blow, leaving Ethiopia dependent on Djibouti for over 95% of its trade. This reliance cost Ethiopia more than $1.5 billion annually in port fees, draining foreign reserves and creating a strategic vulnerability. The government in Addis Ababa views this dependency as unsustainable, fueling a national drive to secure alternative sea access. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has made regaining maritime access a central pillar of Ethiopia's future, framing it as essential for national development and sovereignty. The quest for a port is not a luxury but a necessity for Ethiopia's economic ambitions and security. The government's message is clear: sovereign port access is a non-negotiable objective for Ethiopia's future. On January 1, 2024, Ethiopia stunned the region by signing a Memorandum of Understanding with Somaliland, a self-declared republic. The deal offered Ethiopia a 50-year lease on a 20-kilometer stretch of Somaliland's coastline for a naval base and commercial port. In return, Ethiopia promised to consider official recognition of Somaliland's sovereignty, a prize Hargeisa has sought for decades. For Somaliland, this was a chance to break diplomatic isolation and gain a powerful ally. The move bypassed Somalia's central government, marking a dramatic shift in Ethiopia's foreign policy and raising the stakes in the Horn of Africa. The agreement not only challenged Ethiopia's dependency on Djibouti, but also projected its ambitions into the heart of the Red Sea corridor. The risks, however, were immediate and immense. Somalia's response was swift and furious, denouncing the Ethiopia-Somaliland deal as a violation of its sovereignty. Mogadishu recalled its ambassador and launched a diplomatic offensive, rallying support from the Arab League and Organization of Islamic Cooperation. The crisis has strained security cooperation in the region, with Somali officials questioning the presence of Ethiopian troops fighting al-Shabaab. The rift threatens to undermine years of counter-terrorism efforts and destabilize the Horn of Africa. Mass protests erupted in Somalia, uniting the public against what is seen as an existential threat. The deal has reopened old wounds, reviving memories of past conflicts and stoking nationalist fervor. The crisis has ironically fostered a rare sense of unity in Somalia, galvanizing resistance to Ethiopia's ambitions. The Ethiopia-Somaliland deal triggered a cascade of regional rivalries, especially with Egypt and Eritrea. Egypt, already at odds with Ethiopia over the Nile, quickly backed Somalia, pledging security assistance and using the crisis to pressure Addis Ababa. Eritrea, once reconciled with Ethiopia, now views its neighbor's maritime ambitions with deep suspicion, quietly aligning with Somalia and Egypt. The region's fragile balance is further destabilized by disinformation and fears of renewed conflict. The Horn of Africa has become a battleground for influence, with old adversaries forming new alliances. The specter of conflict looms as mistrust and military posturing intensify. The Ethiopia-Somaliland deal has redrawn the lines of regional competition. The crisis has drawn in global powers, all urging restraint and respect for Somalia's sovereignty. The US, EU, and African Union have called for dialogue, warning that the dispute risks undermining the fight against terrorism and regional stability. China, with major investments in the region, has also pressed for a diplomatic solution to protect its interests. The UAE, a key investor in both Ethiopia and Somaliland, is suspected of quietly supporting Ethiopia's ambitions as part of its own Red Sea strategy. Other powers, including Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Russia, are also maneuvering for influence, adding complexity to the crisis. The Horn of Africa has become a stage for global competition, with local disputes echoing far beyond the region. The risk of escalation is real, as rival powers jostle for advantage. For Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, Sea access is a matter of national survival, not just ambition. He has invoked Ethiopia's ancient maritime legacy and offered economic partnerships to neighbors in exchange for port access. While insisting on peaceful solutions, Abiy's government has shown a willingness to take bold, disruptive steps when diplomacy stalls. The strategy is high risk, creating new realities on the ground and forcing the world to respond. Ethiopia's population is booming, and leaders believe that without a port, the nation's growth and autonomy will be permanently limited. The quest for the sea is framed as an intergenerational responsibility, worth enduring short-term isolation for long-term gain. Abiy is betting that Ethiopia's logic will eventually win international acceptance. Ethiopia's maritime push is unfolding amid a fierce scramble for influence in the Horn of Africa. The Red Sea and Gulf of Aden are vital trade arteries, drawing in the US, China, Russia, Turkey, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Foreign military bases and investments have turned the region into a geopolitical chessboard, where local disputes quickly become global. Ethiopia is leveraging external rivalries, aligning with actors like the UAE to advance its goals. Some Western powers may quietly support Ethiopia as a counterweight to China or Russia. The Ethiopia-Somaliland deal is now a proxy for larger contests over trade, security, and power. The region's stability hangs in the balance, with every move watched by the world. Ethiopia's path to the sea is riddled with obstacles, legal, diplomatic, and practical. The Somaliland deal is not yet a binding treaty, and Somalia's fierce opposition has rallied international support for its sovereignty. Ethiopia and Somaliland risk isolation within the African Union, while mediation efforts offer only a faint hope for compromise. Building a port and naval base from scratch would require billions in investment and secure infrastructure through potentially hostile territory. The project's viability depends on regional stability, which remains elusive. Ethiopia's ambition has set the Horn of Africa on an unpredictable course, one that could end in either negotiated progress or deepening conflict. As of late 2023, Wuntrauen zu Neighbory, von den 24 Dessen Paramanen für die Ennur beider über Weiden feiner Spides, Tumanim Umwanen. Ethiopia's quest remains a bold gamble, its outcome uncertain.